So if you live in Georgia, there's this controversial new gun law that's about to take effect. This summer, residents are going to be able to pack heat in places like schools, in bars, in churches, in government buildings, you name it.
Gun rights advocates say the new law gives them added protections, but critics are firing back. They call this new law extreme. They call it reckless. CNN's Nick Valencia has more.
While we still guard against tyranny, America today cherishes this right so that people who follow the rules can protect themselves and their families from those who don't follow the rules.
Surrounded by the applause of hundreds of supporters, Georgia's Governor Nathan Deal signed a new wide-ranging gun bill into law this week. The bill, which passed the State House and Senate with overwhelming bipartisan support, is important for what it allows. Starting July 1st, the number of places law-abiding Georgians can carry their licensed weapons without penalty will expand. Places like the airport. As it stands right now, if you tried to bring your firearm through a TSA checkpoint, you'd likely be arrested. Under the new law, you can do that. Your firearm will likely be taken away from you, but it will be given back, and you won't face criminal prosecution. The law will also allow Georgians to carry guns into bars and churches, so long as the establishment hasn't banned them.
I don't know of any church that plans to opt in to this law.
Dr. Ralphie Warnock, the pastor at Ebenezer Baptist, says most Georgians had no idea about the gun bill until it was signed into law. Dr. Martin Luther King preached at the church, and his mother was shot and killed there in 1974.
I shudder to think what that day would have been like, the kind of mayhem that we would have seen had everyone been strapped that day with a gun.
The lobby group that pushed through the Safe Carry Protection Act believes the new law will make the state a safer place.
The violence is in the person, not in the gun. And until you figure out how to treat the violence, then you're going to have that. And taking all the guns off the streets is not going to make anybody any safer.
Nick Valencia, CNN, Atlanta.
Now, stick with us here, because in the next hour, we're debating this controversial new law with Virginia Tech shooting survivor Colin Goddard, as well as Jerry Henry, the executive director of GeorgiaCarry.org.
The organization that strongly supported the law here in Georgia.
So let's talk about this controversial new gun law in Georgia. It's giving gun owners basically the go-ahead to pack heat in some pretty surprising places. It's actually been nicknamed the Guns Everywhere law by critics. Supporters, though, say it gives them added protections.
Okay, so here's how it works. Starting on July 1st, Georgia residents will be able to legally carry guns into some churches, schools, parts of the airport, even into bars. A bar owner now must opt out if they want guns banned from their premises.
And unless a police officer witnesses a crime, they cannot go up to any individuals and ask, them to show a conceal and carry permit if they see that that person has a gun. So we want to bring in gun control advocate Colin Goddard. He's a survivor of the 2007 Virginia Tech shooting. And Jerry Henry, he's the executive director of Georgia Carry, the group that lobbied for this law. Gentlemen, thank you both for being with us.
Jerry,
let me start with you, if I could, please. How do you respond to, people who argue that this law is reckless and that it just goes too far?
Well, we have passed 3 laws in the last 6 years, and each one of them restored more of our rights. And we listen to the same emotional rhetoric every time, and it has not happened. Not one instance has anything that they've said come true.
What do you mean nothing has come true? What do they argue?
Well, in 2008, for example, the Restaurant Association argued that their wait staff they were in fear of their wait staff's lives because someone would come out, bring a steak not done, and some guy would jump up and shoot them. That 2 guys walking into a restaurant would bump into each other, and they'd turn around and draw on each other.
Okay.
There were petitions signed by bus drivers in MARTA wanting bulletproof shields if that law was passed to protect their lives, and there hadn't been one shooting on there since. There hadn't been any. As a matter of fact, the crime rate on MARTA has gone down in these last 6 years.
And MARTA being the public transportation here in the Atlanta area and in Georgia. Let's play something that Georgia Governor Nathan Deal said on the day he signed this. Let's listen. We'll talk on the other side.
While we still guard against tyranny, America today cherishes this right so that people who follow the rules can protect themselves and their families from those who don't follow the rules.
Colin, what's wrong with that logic? I mean, the people who you can create as many laws as you want restricting guns, as we see in major cities like Chicago, but the people who get guns illegally, those laws don't matter. What's wrong with the governor's logic there?
Well, what the governor has failed to mention, and what a lot of media outlets have actually not failed to cover in this bill, is that it actually expands the stand your ground law as we currently know it. Currently, people with illegal firearms, people who don't have carry permits, and people who are intoxicated can't use the stand your ground defense after they shoot and kill somebody. Now they can in Georgia because they changed the law. And so, this bill was called the Safe Carry Protection Act. I'm not exactly sure how giving stand your ground immunity to felons with illegal firearms or people under the abuse of alcohol, or not even with a carry permit in the first place, is a safe carry provision part of that. So it's really a part that, like I said, is only a small change that a lot of people missed. And it's now a bit too late because the governor signed it into law, and it's something we need to talk about.
Okay, Jerry, what do you say to that? Does it expand stand your ground?
No, it does not. Stand your ground is the duty, no duty to retreat, basically. It did not expand that no duty to retreat. The only thing that it did was that if I go into a location that I'm not supposed to be in to protect someone's life, so if I'm standing across the street from a campus, I can't carry on campus. If I see my daughter or my wife being attacked on the campus, then I can go over there and protect them and not be charged with carrying a firearm in the wrong place, and then run the risk of losing my license and my right to carry because I protected my wife and daughter. They say that it protects felons. Felons have always been able to use stand your ground law. Just because they're a felon doesn't mean that they have to give up their lives.
Jerry, here's what we're hearing from a lot of people, a lot of the critics of the law. Where was the outcry to take a gun into a church before now? What's the basis for hoping to pass this law to allow people to take guns into parts of airports and churches and bars?
Well, first off, in Georgia, the Atlanta airport, since 2010, you've been able to carry a firearm in there. They will not arrest you. The city of Atlanta read the law at that point that said that they could not arrest you for carrying a firearm in the non-secure area. So nothing has changed there. Now, as far as the churches go, the churches are private property, and we think that every piece of private property should be treated the same. The government should not be involved in churches any way, shape, or form. And there are an awful lot of churches that are outside of the metro area who are smaller churches, do not have the money for security to protect themselves. And this gives them an opportunity to say, I want 5 people or 10 people armed, ready to go to protect us if we need it.
Colin, I want to ask you, because this I think is one of the parts that really does not sit well with people, is the whole fact that you could take a gun into schools under this law. Now school districts, as we understand it, can appoint certain employees to carry firearms. You were a victim in the 2007 Virginia Tech shooting, so you know about guns in school very well. Would that deter, do you think, someone who walks into a school to know that there may be somebody else in that school who is armed?
I don't think so. I mean, there have been instances where there have been shootings at schools where there have been armed officers before, like such in Columbine. But we have to understand that, this bill that is passed and now signed into law was actually a lot worse. Not only was it K through 12 schools, as you just mentioned, but this also bill would have forced all universities in the state of Georgia to allow people to concealed carry, as well as also forcing the churches in the state to allow people to carry inside their houses of worship. Instead of now, we helped modify it to get it so that they get to choose. Before, they were trying to be forced. So this bill started out much worse, and through the grassroots activity of a lot of people in Georgia, we actually made it a little bit better right at the last minute.
Did I say something?
Go ahead, Jerry, you have the last word.
Okay. The churches are private property, and they, like any other private property, have the right to tell you no, whether it was this law, whether it's opt-in or opt-out. If you come to my place with a gun and I don't want you there, I can tell you to leave, vice versa. Same way with bars, and the same way with churches, and they should be treated that way.
Okay. Okay. Well, Colin Goddard and Jerry Henry, I want to thank both of you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
I have a feeling we're going to be talking about this for quite some time.
Certainly we will.